Wonderful things can be achieved. Together, hand in hand, let us preserve the unity of our beautiful country, Cameroon.
This is a message from Royal FM, the listeners' radio.
Subscribe to Masuk for a strong and prosperous economy.
The 2PM Newscast
with
Mapala Zita.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. You are welcome to today's Royal Afternoon edition, the 2 p.m. news on 88.4 Royal FM and live on YouTube at Royal FM Cameroon. Our top stories. The price of a kilogram of cocoa beans has witnessed a drastic drop from close to 6,000 francs per kilogram to a record 800 francs. An expert attempt an explanation.
When prices rise too quickly, they often follow by corrections as traders reassess real supply and demand conditions.
Out of Cameroon, Nigeria has suspended all pilgrimages to Israel and the occupied West Bank due to security concerns. And in sports, Elite One players summoned by head coach David Pagu are expected to meet today ahead of tomorrow's training camp launch. Ladies and gentlemen, those were the headlines. Welcome to the 2 p.m. news on Royal FM. My name is Mapala Zita. In prelude to the municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon, Elections Cameroon and the United Nations system have held a high-level session in Yaoundé. The event, dubbed the Technical Assistance Project for the 2025-2027 electoral cycle in Cameroon, was aimed at ensuring a transparent electoral process. Our political and economic reporter, Evans Williams Njobati, tells us more.
The second steering committee session for the United Nations Technical Assistance Project for the electoral cycle in Cameroon of 2025 to 2027 went unhinge-free yesterday in Yaoundé, a project that gathered several stakeholders in the process with the complicity of the UNO system, as Issa Sanogo, United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator in Cameroon, highlights.
Is a project which is meant to build the capacities of all the actors involved in election. And we start by Election Cameroon itself. And the other actors include the civil society, because they work on the ground to oversee the elections. The other actors are the media.
More to this, the United Nations official states the essence of ensuring a transparent upcoming electoral process.
We entered an electoral cycle with a lot of tension. Misinformation, hate speech were common. This technical electoral assistance project aimed to bring those actors who can also contribute to peace building and social cohesion. Beyond the capacity building, the project also meant to promote dialogue. And lastly, to ensure that the population itself, those who participate in the election, are also well informed so that the election can be inclusive and participative.
On the side of Elections Cameroon, the president of the Electoral Council, Dr. Eno Abrams Egbe, affirms this meeting will not only evaluate activities already completed, but equally to strengthen the institutional and technical capacities of ELECAM staff.
It is to strengthen electoral capacity. The actors of the electoral process are all diverse. You have political parties, you have civil society. Election Cameroon is part of this, and other administrations. When we regroup like this, we get people on board to learn the basics, to know the inclusivity of the elections, the trust that is very important to create an atmosphere of peace and stability.
As a reminder, this technical partnership formally launched in May 2025 with a budget of approximately $5 million, that is over 3 billion francs CFA, also aimed at promoting inclusive citizen participation and civic education, as well as foster a peaceful, transparent and credible electoral environment.
From politics, we talk economy. After months of historic hikes on the international market, the price of a kilogram of cocoa beans is experiencing a significant drop in Cameroon. In several production basins, farmers are witnessing a sharp decline in farm gate prices. This comes within the context of ongoing volatility in global cocoa prices and dynamics within the local market chain. Now, just what are the real reasons behind this sudden drop? And for a better understanding, an expert, Valerie Asundep, gives his insight, pointing out implications for producers on the microphone of our reporter, Jeffrey Itachum. Take a listen.
International cocoa prices had reached unusual high levels due to supply shortage in major producing countries such as Ghana and Ivory Coast, which was mainly caused by climate shocks, crop diseases, and high aging plantations. However, as market began adjusting to these supply disruptions, speculative investors started taking profits, which naturally pushed prices downward. Secondly, global commodity markets are inherently volatile. When prices rise too quickly, they often follow by corrections as traders reassess real supply and demand conditions. This adjustment phase is currently contributing to the downward pressure which is observed on cocoa prices in Cameroon. Another important factor is the European Union new deforestation regulation, which is beginning to reshape the cocoa trade. The EU laws requires that commodities like cocoa entering the European market must prove that they are not linked to deforestation after December 2020. Now, since Europe is one of the largest buyers of African cocoa, this regulation has created uncertainty in the market, where we find many exporters and buyers are becoming more cautious as they try to ensure traceability and compliance with these new international standards. In some cases, this caution can slow down purchases or create temporary market disruptions, which may also contribute to price fluctuations at the producer level.
Cameroon's Minister of Basic Education has officially launched a national campaign to make public the updated internal regulations governing primary schools. The initiative is put under the Education Support Program, PREMAC, which seeks to enhance discipline, improve learning outcomes, and governance in the basic education sector. The project also focuses on recruiting and better distributing teachers and strengthening their capacity to better implement the new curriculum. And still to come in this newscast, ladies and gentlemen, we look at the preparation of Women's Day in tailoring workshops.
We have a lot of pressure because it's these days that people are bringing their own fabrics. I bought some few fabrics, not to sell but to sew and expose.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, you are listening to the 2 p.m. news on Royal FM and watching us live on YouTube at Royal FM Cameroon. The new human rights organization is currently holding a conference in Yaoundé as part of advocacy for the ratification of the African Convention on Violence Against Women and Girls. The event is part of activities leading up to the 41st edition of the International Women's Day coming up on Sunday, March the 8th, 2026. Our youth and education reporter, Glorin Gange, spoke with a member of the executive board of the new human rights non-governmental organization, and now details out.
The organization aims at denouncing gender-based violence, and as the 41st International Women's Day approaches, the focus is now on the protection of women and girls. Cyril Roland Bechong is the executive director of the NGO in Cameroon.
We are calling to the ratification of the African Union Convention on the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls because this is a clear response for institutional reform and legal reform we need in Africa to go for the elimination of violence against women and girls.
Today's activities holding at the Muna Foundation in Yaoundé will feature a presentation of results of the socio-legal studies on the elimination of violence against women and girls in Cameroon and the Central African Republic.
This study happened last year, and we want to show how this data talks to the advocacy for the ratification and give clear reason for what we need as a state to ratify the Convention on the Elimination of Violence Against Women in Africa.
Responding to the questions on what can be done to completely eradicate gender-based violence against women and girls, Cyril Roland Bechong says,
it's a question of our society, of patriarchy, of culture, of religions. It's also a question of norms. So we call on action of everybody because we have individual action we can take in our family and also collective action we should take as a community, as organization, as enterprise, as country regarding women's and girls' rights.
New Human Rights Cameroon was established in the country in the early 1990s with primary mission to protect, defend and expand human rights. The organization addresses various categories of rights like civil and political, as well as social and cultural rights.
Glory Gange in that report. We just few days to go before International Women's Day celebration on March the 8th. Tailoring workshops across Yaoundé are dealing with pressure from demanding customers in an attempt to meet up with deadlines. Many of them are running their serving or rather their sewing machines non-stop to finish up with dresses ordered by the celebrants. Meanwhile, others complain about the inertia of their activities in this particular period, usually very busy, fearing possible financial losses. Jeffrey Tachum visited a few of them and compiled their reactions in the following report.
In the Essos Markets neighborhood, the pressure is mounting for those who have received last-minute orders from customers. Favor, who owns a tailoring shop here, has not left her sewing machine in the last days.
We have a lot of pressure because it's these days that people are bringing their own dresses last minute, they're bringing their own fabrics. As for me, I bought when it was still 10,000. I bought some few fabrics, not to sell but to sew and expose.
And this year, customers have found refuge in a specific color in a bid to make room for diversity in their wardrobes.
The most demanding color is the green color, not because the orange color is not nice, but because last year there was orange color. So the orange color is also good, but there's somebody that had orange color last year will not want to have again orange this year. That make the green color preferable.
However, when we move a step away from Favor's shop, the atmosphere hits different. A renowned tailor in Essos Market, Nwankwo, regrets the fact that activities are dormant in his shop as customers are nowhere to be seen, a situation which he fears might have consequences in his business.
At this Women's Day to make money and pay my payment small, but you see how everything is done. It's dormant, so I cannot call that not that is going. So that is the purpose of what I'm complaining. If tomorrow can change, it can be something, but we cannot satisfy our debt only for a day or 2 days.
As the celebration of International Women's Day draws closer, the contrasting experiences in tailoring shops highlight both the excitement and the economic uncertainty surrounding one of the most anticipated dates on the social calendar.
Few days to the 41st edition of the International Women's Day celebration, some associations say they have for the past days been organizing activities to promote women's autonomy in the society. Fringwe Crispin, who is head of Reporters Brigade and Culture here at Royal FM, interviewed a leader of one of such associations and compiled this report.
Chin Claudette is of the Communication and Public Relation Unit at the National Blood Transfusion Service in Cameroon. She reveals that so far the institution has established an association where women come together for educative talks, organize activities to promote women's autonomy in the society, especially during the week leading up to the International Women's Day celebration.
The women under the banner of the general manager, who herself is a woman, Professor Dora Mbanya, coined a series of activities to enlighten women on the role of justice in their lives and how they can seek justice when they find themselves in trouble or when they have family issues or other societal issues.
The women of the National Blood Transfusion Service also took part in a food fair where they presented their culinary skills, indicating that they are not only good with administrative work.
The women of the NBTS are also having a gathering away from the office to discuss problems that they face at their workplaces, not only at the workplaces but also in the family, and share best practices. They're going to share experiences, how they can better cope with the pressures of juggling work and the family.
Chin Claudette further reveals that the women of NBTS are currently organizing a sensitization campaign at the National Museum.
This period is a period where they are giving women the go-ahead, the lead. So we are out there screening for anemia and also encouraging and educating the population on the importance of blood donation. We all know that women need blood because they are life givers.
It is worth noting that as part of activities to mark the 41st International Women's Day, the women of the NBTS will visit orphanages.
And while the International Women's Day 2026 theme emphasizes rights, justice, and actions in favor of women and girls, social cases sadly remind us of the reality on the ground. So is the plight of Awondo Calixta Noga, a woman whose family, especially her brothers, have refused to recognize her as head of the household, a burden she faces in addition to problems of land expropriation. Our society reporter Ngang Nadesh had an exchange with a legal expert about the situation and now reports.
In Cameroon, matrilineal inheritance is a complex and often contentious issue influenced by a mix of traditional customs, cultural norms, and modern laws. Nelson Lambris is a legal mind.
This is a very complex situation and problem. We need to take into consideration the succession law in Cameroon, family law, that's the patrimonial law, and the will of the deceased. When it comes to situations like this, it's very complex in Cameroon. If there was no will from the deceased person, and then the customs and traditions of the people prevail.
Women's right to inheritance are often strengthened when there is a will, without which customary laws might limit their access to inheritance.
Now, if there was no written will, and then the woman has no right to claim that she owns the family property, yes, the woman can be the eldest person in the family, but it doesn't suffice that the woman is the successor of the family property.
Nelson Lambris concludes by emphasizing that a woman's claim to inheritance without a will is challenging, and the latter is crucial for her to have a stronger legal footing.
In Cameroon, it is discriminatory, but for now, that is what prevails. If there is no will, it will be very difficult for a woman to claim property ownership of family. I'm not saying that she is completely wrong, but I want to repeat that if there was no will, and then she has no case, I'm sorry.
In Cameroon, as in many African communities, inheritance has traditionally been a patriarchal domain, with women often marginalized and excluded from decision-making processes. However, As societal values evolve and women increasingly assert their rights, it is imperative to re-examine and redefine inheritance laws and practices to ensure equal opportunities and protection for all.
Out of Cameroon, Somalia has passed a new constitution that will see lawmakers directly elected by the public for the first time. The move was passed yesterday despite a boycott by an opposition alliance. In recent years, MPs voted for the president, while clan heads and elders elected lawmakers in both the federal government and regional states. And according to Prime Minister Hamza Abdi Barry, this move, which is a historic victory, now becomes the first official constitution Somalia has had since the civil war. Nigerian authorities have suspended all pilgrimages to Israel and the occupied West Bank with immediate effect, citing security concerns linked to the escalating conflict in the Middle East. The decision was announced by the Nigerian Christian Pilgrim Commission, which is the national body responsible for coordinating Christian pilgrimages. In a statement, the commission said the measure was necessary to prioritize the safety and the comfort of Nigerian pilgrims. Relatively, the death toll of the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran has risen to over 1,000, with more strikes still being launched by the warring parties. Iranian Foreign Ministry's spokesperson Ismail Baghai warned in a statement today that European Union countries will pay the price if they fail to speak up and rather choose to remain silent over the attacks on Iran. We come back with sports just after this break. The president of the Cameroon Judo Federation, Alain Christian Kingé, has rather praised the club leaders following the successful launch of the 2026 season in Idea last weekend. In a recent interview, the president highlighted the event's scale, noting that the gathering united 36 clubs from 7 regions. The season's kickoff featured more than 200 athletes, a figure he cites as clear evidence of the sport's rising popularity across the nation. Here now is an excerpt of the president selected for us by Biwa Brian.
We have a national opening season of Cameroon Judo Federation, about 32 clubs and 236 athletes on the tatami. It's a very, very big competition because we have high level fighting on the tatami. We have the very good people who grabbed the gold medal for championship. Some of them keep first place, another have second place, and we have the young talented athlete who will take the leads, and it's good for our federation. And we see that we have 7 regions present at IDEA. Hope that at the next competition, more regions to the next competition with a national championship, 11th of April in Yaoundé. We have a competition for the young athlete Kimono Do on 21 of March. And we prepare very, very, very high competition like African Championship. We will be in Nairobi, Kenya on 24 of April.
And on to one of our lead stories, a significant number of Elite One players summoned by coach Pagu David have already arrived in the capital city, Yaoundé, ahead of tomorrow's training camp launch. The complete squad is expected to be assembled later today with a scheduled meeting at the Federation's headquarters tomorrow before their departure. In a recent commentary, Dewa Fabrice and Jurel Battinga weigh in on the roster, analyzing the choices behind the selection of players. Take a listen.
That aside, I think it's a very good list. We have most of the really good players in the league are there. The likes of Drew Amanko, the man who won the top scorer award in the league 2 years ago. We have the goalkeeper of Pante Omde, Mark Ongene, who was really outstanding in the course of the league season, and of course was the key man for Pante during the cup final against Colombe. We also have 2 players who have been drafted from the Houston team that emerged winners in the recent UEFA Cup in Kinshasa. So I think it's a very good list.
There are reports that some of the players were selected but later dropped along the line. fine. It isn't clear the reason why they did so. Some are suggesting an influence from the federation. We cannot confirm that yet. Only the club management can tell us why they were left out at the final minute. But it's surprising to see the best club of the season not having a single player feature in a list of 30 supposedly best local players.
Following the incident that occurred 7 days ago at the Ngwaikele Military Stadium, where Colombe Sportif abandoned the Super Cup final for poor officiating of the match, the National Football Association has reacted with a correspondence dated March the 4th, 2026. Biwa Brian read through the correspondence and now gives us details in this report.
In the communique signed by the association's president, Lucien Metomo, the association expressed deep concern over the behavior that marred the encounter. The NFC reminded all actors that respect for opponent supporters and the spirit of fair play are the negotiable foundations of high-quality football. The statement called on players to better manage their emotions and channel their passion into a spirit of mutual respect, emphasizing that the primary mission is to represent their club and country with dignity. To prevent future occurrences, the NFC committed to launching awareness campaigns and ethical training programs for both players and coaches in the days ahead. The genesis of the entire issue dates back to Thursday, February 26, where the 2025 Men's Super Cup ended prematurely at the Ngwaikele Military Stadium following a dramatic protest by Colombe Sportif of Jai Lobo. After taking an early lead through Bayamebe lead Steve Lima, Colombe Sportif stalled in momentum when Panther equalized via George Baga's penalty in the 66th minute, a penalty which was disputed by Colombe and caused them to stop the play for a while before returning to play. The tension, however, boiled in the 70th minute of the encounter when the referee issued a red card to Captain Tunwe Kwalarandi. In protest, Colombe walked off the pitch, leading the referee to officially end the match at the 90th minute with a score of 1 goal all sides. It's been 7 days since that incident occurred at the Ngwaikele Stadium, and no one knows the winner of the 2025 edition of the Super Cup, almost like it was in the 2024 edition, as a decision from the Cameroon Football Federation's homologation committee is still awaited as stipulated by the regulations that governs football in Cameroon.
It is now time for me to welcome Francine Ateba into the studio with a summary of this newscast in the French language. Bon après-midi, Francine.
Good afternoon, Mapalazita. Concernant l'autonomisation des femmes, les associations jouent un rôle crucial. Elles offrent des ressources et un appui pour permettre à ces dernières de développer leurs compétences et d'entreprendre des initiatives économiques. Dans le cadre de la Journée internationale des droits de la femme 2026, cette fonction est plus perceptible. Le kilo du cacao connaît une baisse drastique, partant de 5 000 pour 2 500 francs CFA. La fève de l'or brun se commercialise en ce moment à 1 200 francs au plus et à 800 francs au moins. La cause étant due au ralentissement des achats. À l'étranger, au Nigeria, le gouvernement suspend les pèlerinages chrétiens vers Israël en raison de la situation sécuritaire au Moyen-Orient. Cependant, aucune suspension officielle du pèlerinage musulman à la Mecque n'a été confirmée à ce jour. L'annonce a été faite par le secrétaire exécutif Stephen Agdegbit ainsi que par la commission nigériane des pèlerins chrétiens. En sport, les Lions indomptables entrent en stage bloqué du 6 au 10 mars à Yaoundé sous la direction du coach David Pagou. Ce regroupement vise à évaluer les talents locaux en vue des prochaines échéances internationales, notamment les séries FIFA contre l'Australie et la Chine.
That was the package we gathered for you on today's Royal Afternoon edition, the 2 p.m. news, which was technically assisted by Irish Kamwi. Brian Bida took care of the cameras for our social media live videos. Production assistants Ngang Nadej. Script editing and editorial coaching Abel Bella Samari. Central coordination Roger Kiek, our station manager, and the general supervision by the Reverend Pastor Bisai Emmanuel Noel. For news editing and presentation, my name is Mapalazita. Thank you all for your kind attention, and do have a pleasant afternoon in the company of programs over Royal FM. More news comes up at 6 p.m., which of course will be a bilingual edition. But before then, programs continue on Royal FM, and in the next 30 minutes, you will be entertained to good music, a careful selection of Irish Kemwe. At 3 p.m., Florent Goyam will be here for the program Miroir Societal. Ladies and gentlemen,